Welcome to At Work on Connected to India. My guest on this podcast is a dear friend, an ex-colleague, a man of knowledge, someone who has been in the middle of the mind-boggling development which have happened in the world of sports, from being associated with Kolkata Knight Riders, the launch of the Kabaddi League, the Volleyball League, of which he's the CEO himself. Joy Bhattacharjya, welcome to At Work.
Hi, wonderful to be here. Lovely to see you again, Himanshu.
Same here, Joy. So I assume Kolkata Knight Riders continues to be a team. So congratulations on the victory this year.
Yeah, I do a lot of work on CricBuzz on air as an analyst, but there's no doubt at all that, it's a team that I've given my heart and soul to for so many years. So those associations don't go away that easily.
You worked with KKR for the first 6 years, and you had one of the wins in 2012 when you were at
both of them.
Both of them, yeah. So specifically, what was your profile? What did you do at KKR, Joy?
So in those days, these were the early days of the IPL. I was team director. That means literally everything. It was like running the entire operations of the team and making sure that basically what happens is the coaching staff. So from the auction strategy to the players you take to working with the team to make sure everything works smoothly and successfully. So there's a whole lot of things. And I think that's the thing. That's the most important thing about it is that you just need to keep, when you're early into a thing, that the great advantage of that is you define your role.
Yeah.
Whereas, when you come in later, 5 years later, now a lot of what's happening in the IPL also becomes systematized. But in the beginning, nobody knew everything. So you literally did whatever needed to be done for the team to play. From the logistics to the, marketing, to the ticketing, to the, auction strategy, everything. Now, the same roles would be performed by about 4 or 5 different people across different categories. But these were early days, And it just mirrors the same thing. If you look at the Indian cricket team, it's the same. There used to be one coach who used to go. Now you have specialist massiers who travel with the Indian team. You have specialist ball throwers who just throw balls. So that's what happens over time. But yeah, it was great fun in those days.
Joy, at that time, you interacted with 3 of the biggest personalities, I would say, in the Indian sports, media, entertainment sectors. So I just give me a few lines on each of them. Shah Rukh Khan.
He was amazing in the sense that he clearly knew his job was to, and which is why KKR was positive from year one. It was cash positive even at a time when everyone else would lose money. But Shah Rukh was very clear about he is not the expert in cricket. He'll give the expert in cricket whatever they need. And then they'll go and do what he has to. So even if he had an opinion, it was not, he never told a coach how to run a team. And that's fantastic because he did what he did best and he did what he expected to be done on a macro level. I mean, he did not ever try and micromanage, and so many teams are guilty of that today. It's not funny. So I think that's the one thing you'll see that by and large, he was very clear about it. He wanted to just inspire the guys. He wanted to be with the guys, give whatever support he could. And that was it. And I think that's the one great thing that you need to do. If you want to run something that's as big as that, you need to empower people. And he was very good at that. Sourav was an interesting character because, T20 was never his format. I mean, he's a great cricketer, but Rahul Dravid, they missed the T20 revolution. That said, Sachin had more longevity. So perhaps Sachin played more T20 than them. But that's the thing that we've known him since, as you would know, the ESPN Star Sports days. He was on one of our shows. So he's a fascinating, complex, very interesting personality, very, very bright cricket brain, fantastic leader. And it was very interesting because he was at the stage of his career when he was just retired from international cricket and he had made this fantastic comeback where after what Greg Chappell did to him, he managed to come back and do it. And so he was great to deal with. I mean, again, a fascinating, complex character. There's lots to be written on either side. But no doubt he's one of the greats of Indian cricket. Gautam, as I said, one of the things that, when Gautam came and became coach of Kolkata Knight Riders, the one thing we said is, what is Gautam? Gautam is he's not cool. He doesn't need to be. But what Gautam did was, we fashioned the team around the spirit that Gautam brought. Gautam's spirit was, I'll take a bullet for any team member of my team. I'll stand in front and take the bullet first. And that sincerity, that doing for other people, and that recognizing the role that small players had a role to play was a huge thing. So he was a very, very influential person. And I think the we also tend to forget in all that, he doesn't talk very much and all that. You see, he's one of the sharpest cricket brains around as well. So,
Correct.
you cannot just have somebody who's very resolute. You need somebody who also has substance to him. And he had two things. He was one of the sharpest cricket brains around. And secondly, he was probably one of the finest players of spin India ever had, which meant that in the kind of conditions Kolkata used to play, he was a master batter as well. Don't forget that part, the character.
Changing gears, Joy, talking about quizzing. Okay. Now, I saw one of your tweets that you did your engineering and then you were all set to become a techie. And I can't imagine you as a techie at all. How did that start from? How did you get into quizzing?
I got into quizzing. I got into quizzing much earlier. I got into quizzing in class 3 when I was in school, but that's a different matter. But seriously, in college, I was quizzing. And in those days, in 1980s, there was this huge program Siddharth Bharti used to conduct called Quiz Time.
Yeah.
And I was a East Zone finalist with my university in Quiz Time. So the thing about it was quizzing in Calcutta, as you know, Calcutta is a city that appreciates this kind of stuff. Quizzing was taken very seriously. So when I finished my university education, when I finished my master's in computer applications, I got a job as a software engineer. The one thing I realized was that, and I looked around, and at that time there was this girl I was going around with who was also did her MCA, and she loved what she was doing, and I was competent with doing math, but it was not something that I really loved. And I told myself that it's going to be a real waste of time to spend my life doing something which is not a passion. And therefore, in 93 itself, 92 itself, I told my father was remarkably calm about it. He said, work for a year in software so you can tell yourself you didn't run away from it. And then after that, if you still feel that quizzing is what you want to do, go and do it. And that's what happened. I worked for a year and then I joined Derek O'Brien, and we first ever quizzing company. It used to be called Big Ideas in those days. And from then on, from there, worked there for a year and a half, then came to Delhi to do some same sort of work with Business India Television. And then that journey just continued. So quizzing actually got me into media, as it were. Because I worked with both of the so-called doyens of Indian quizzing, which is Siddharth Basu. Also, I've worked with him on the first Mastermind.
Yeah.
He's a very dear friend. Derek, I know, as I said, for 30 years, from more than that, actually, from Kolkata. So all these people, and to see their styles, to see how they operate in their quizzing is also fascinating.
Yeah. If I was to ask you, how is quizzing good? Why is quizzing good for kids? Is that a valid question?
I think it's a valid question because lots of people ask me that. Today there's Google, okay? And why do you need quizzing? Why do you need to remember capitals and currencies? The truth is, quizzing was never actually about just remembering capitals and currency. Quizzing is about that one thing which is the single most important thing on our planet, which is curiosity. It's just about saying, why is that like that? So from the Bonvita quiz contest, you say that, why is it that an ambulance is written in reverse on an ambulance? Because on a rear view mirror, somebody can read it better. From there, okay?
Yeah.
Cut off. And so whenever a good quiz is all about, a good question is all about why or how, or making connections and making diverse connections across diverse things. So it's something that really, really improves. It's a great life skill. It is a fantastic life skill because it brings you to things that you don't really ever know that you had access to. And it gives you connections which are so, so important in life. So quizzing is not just a skill. It is not about memory. And once you put that aside and say that it's not about that, instead it's about your brain just being able to connect diverse things and make sense out of them. And then you realize how important it is, because this is a skill that will only increase. Because the truth of it is that the information available to us is absolutely, today we are in the Niagara Falls of information. If there was a cup of water there of information, there's a Niagara Falls coming down. But for you to be able to pick those 4-5 things from that Niagara Falls and make sense of it, makes quizzing even more important nowadays.
If people or kids were to take it early in life, it would help them in the long run.
Absolutely. And if I look at also around the quizzers who I've been with, and there are many, there are good examples of quiz, and not just about academic brightness. Somebody like a Raghuram Rajan used to be a quizzer in college. Also somebody like a Rajdeep Satesai. So the ability to be able to connect things and put things together has always been something. And there are a lot of others who are, somebody like a Jairam Ramesh and Nandan Nilekani were the crack quiz team for IIT Mumbai,
Hmm.
at one particular point in time. So what I'm trying to say is that it there are many quizzing gives you a base, a rounded sort of information. Quizzing gives you a love for curiosity, and that's a very important thing. It gives you those qualities that really want to make you look at things and wonder, is there a better solution to this? Is there a way to do it?
Hmm.
And people who quiz with teammates, it gives you a great sense of understanding. What do I know? What does he know? How can we get it together? When you don't agree, how do you actually synthesize and say, okay, this is the best answer between us without ego getting in the way? So it
Hmm.
teaches you a whole lot of things which are really, really useful.
Yeah. Why is it, Joy, that currently in India, talent shows which are around singing or dancing are so popular, but we don't have a BQC, a quiz time, a mastermind. They're not as popular as they used to be a decade and a half back.
So I think the point is there is still the biggest of them is still there. KBC is a huge, huge show. I mean, even today.
Hmm.
And because KBC is such a behemoth, we tend to forget that it is at its essence a quiz of knowledge. It's not knowledge of information about making good choices. And so it's there. And I think what you'll see is that there are shows like that, but KBC has just been so big that it sucked up everyone else in between. In
Hmm.
between, I mean, there were a few shows in recently. I mean,
It's a great point.
yeah, and Bowman Irani recently, about five,
Yeah.
6 years back, did a fantastic show, which was about the boss of Bollywood, about everything about Bollywood.
Hmm.
And there are lots of these individuals. There's recently Harsha has done another cricket quiz show,
Yeah.
which I'm happy to be a part of to help him, put it together. So it is happening, and it's really funny. I write a quiz column regularly on Sunday for the Times of India, and
Yeah.
it's amazing that this week it didn't happen because there's so much with the elections and all. So it's a
Yeah.
rare week that they had to not take out the column, and I got about 30 mails immediately saying, why isn't the column there this week? So it
Hmm.
tells you there is something there in the middle of all this. There is still that interest is still there.
I do miss the quiz times and BQC, which were also fun to see schools competing and colleges competing with each other.
I think you're going to see more of that. I told you there's a school post quiz which has returned, which is doing really well by
Okay.
views. And I think you'll see more specialized quizzes. There's a lot of quizzing, specialized quizzing happening in the internet. The only problem is that the people are so good there. A lot of the
Hmm.
competitors are so good there that what's happening is it's repelling outsiders. So you
Hmm.
go there and you look at it and you say, "Oh, I know so little." And the truth of it is, you actually don't know less than most quizzes. Quizzing is
Hmm.
also just a way a good quizzer applies his mind. So, for example, I don't quiz regularly, so I content myself by doing cryptic crosswords and other things to keep my brain going.
Hmm.
But if I go to a quiz in Kolkata, say, and I participate, I'm good. But if I participate in 5 quizzes in a row, the sixth quiz, I'm really good because quizzing is like anything else. It's like golf. It's like that you need practice. It's just practice, practice, practice. You get a sense. And that's what I'm saying. That that's why you should never look at it from outside and say, "Oh God, how tough is this question?" It's not that tough if you know how to think.
Joy, you've been coming to Singapore for quite a few years. You make your annual trip to do the Mind Amaze quiz.
Yeah,
And
yes.
so how long back did you start, and what do you think of the quizzers you've met in Singapore?
Mindways has been amazing. I mean, I've been doing it since 2014. I mean, even when
Oh.
it was one year I couldn't come because I was not well.
Hmm.
Another year, a couple of years, we did it online. But otherwise, it's pretty much I've been a fixture. I've come to Singapore every year and do it. And they said it's dedicated to Mayuk Mitter, who was a brilliant quizzer in his time in IIT
Hmm.
Kharagpur, the Martne before that. But I think that's what you see. That's the best of quizzing. What I see out there is when I go out there, I see a lot of people from the quizzing community who are what? They're all over. They're doctors, engineers, writers, bankers, also lots of young, bright, smart kids who are there. And
Hmm.
that's what it is, that if you look around the room, lots of women, there is no single criteria saying that, okay, this is what you need to do. It's a hobby that cuts across everything. And that's one of
Hmm.
the rare hobbies that does that. That, it's very, very heterogeneous in terms of the composition of people. And Singapore is a lovely, diverse, cosmopolitan city which has so much of the flavor of the world around it, and also yet a uniquely Singaporean flavor. And I think that's
Yeah.
the great part about it, that if you can sort of provide something which is both global and yet touches Singapore as well, it's fantastic, and that's what I try and do. And
Yeah.
it is a pleasure to do it. There are very few cities in the world where you can ask the bouquet of questions that you can ask out here. If you go to the UK and ask, you'll find they're very Anglo-centric quizzes. And if you
Hmm.
go, again, in India, sometimes Indian quizzes tend to be very, very Indian. Uh,
Hmm.
this is a true synthesis of a lot of Asia, a lot of Southeast Asia, and yet, retaining a very global perspective.
How would a school's quiz in Singapore look like? And it definitely have a place because Singapore is a meritocratic society. We've got different schooling systems. You've got the international system, the Indian system, and the local system, which is very, very strong. It'll be fun to have a inter-schools
No,
quiz here in
absolutely. I
Singapore.
think it's something you must do. It's something that I'd be delighted to be a part of. It's something that must be done.
Great. I'm going to change gears again and ask you a bit about Gautam Gambhir, the hopefully the future coach of the Indian cricket team. What kind of challenges do you think we'll face?
Look, being the Indian cricket coach it all depends on the kind of mandate he gets in when he comes. And I think he needs to be very clear about what he has, what he doesn't. I think he's taking over in a good time. Why a good
Hmm.
time I say that is that today Virat is at a stage in his career where he's just going to go there and play cricket. He doesn't
Hmm.
want to run Indian cricket right now.
Hmm.
Virat
Hmm.
has enough in him. He has, I think, at least 2 3 years more in him physically because
Hmm.
he's fit. So if Gautam takes over, it'll be, he'll see the fag end of Virat. He'll see the fag end of somebody like, say, Rohit Sharma. But
Hmm.
he will very much have his own team to build from there on. And
Hmm.
if you see that that's what the parampara of Indian cricket has been. If you see that, 12, 13, 14 onwards, Dhoni had a run, and Virat,
Correct.
where they had a chance to mold a team the way they wanted to run. And, the
Hmm.
Virat and Ravi Shastri had a long, very successful run of it. Okay.
Hmm.
And I think that's the great thing that, when somebody like, if a Gautam comes, and hopefully he will, you're going to get the right, he's going to get Bumrah, Surya at their primes. Okay. He's
Hmm.
going to get the fag end of Rohit and Kohli, but he's going to get a rest of a team which he can very much mold in the style which he wants them to play. People like Rishabh Pant. There are lots of young, exciting talents out there. Yashasvis of this world are coming in. There are lots of, maybe an Abhishek Sharma will make an appearance soon. Singh is there. So there are lots of young players, Rituraj, who he can build into a formidable unit. And
Yeah.
his great strength is that to be able to assess the ability of players and allowing them to do their thing. And he's not going to be short of, as I said, he knows, he eats, lives, and breathes cricket, so he'll know upside down what these players are capable of and how they can play.
Yeah. Abhishek Sharma, my goodness, he was absolutely fantastic in this IPL. It was so much fun to watch him, so effortless and just fantastic.
Yeah, in fact, if you think about it, Abhishek is that same generation, 2019, the guys who won in New Zealand
Correct.
after the Prithvi show. So Prithvi, Shubman, Abhishek, Riyan Parag, they're all part of that same team.
Hmm.
And just it's sometimes it's just opportunity meeting talent meeting luck. And we don't never ever forget the luck part of it because it plays such a huge factor in a game like cricket.
What do you think are India's chances? Which players will be shining from our side?
I think India has very good chances because this is a, if you look at the surfaces, this is not a 230, 240, 250. India did not
Yeah.
really have a team that looked to play those 240, 250 games because see, if you take Rohit and Virat, if they're
Hmm.
fit, they're going to play. You cannot take senior players like that and sit them out.
Hmm. Hmm.
But they are players who played a 150 to 170, 180 strike rate.
Hmm.
So now, if this same tournament had been played in the subcontinent, perhaps Rohit was not the right batter for this, or Virat
Hmm.
may not always be the right batter, though Virat has changed gears many times. But if you look at the kind of surfaces that are there and the kind, that means they're all untrained pitches in New York. The pitches are not great, and hopefully there's no serious injury. That's all we want from the New York part of it. इंडिया
Yeah.
पाकिस्तान हो जाए, कोई जीते कोई हारे, इनफैक्ट वो उसका भी कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता because if you see
Hmm.
how the draw is done, even if India comes second in the group, they go as A1.
Hmm.
Even if Pakistan go first in the group, they go as A2 because you, for visa purposes and all, you had to fix that in advance.
Hmm.
So My point is that all we want out of this is just this part for India to qualify and go safely from here. And
Hmm.
while in India-Pakistan match is a hugely hyped things, I wouldn't. These are not the conditions in which you're going to get an ideal match, because both teams will be very worried this early in a tournament of getting
Yeah.
injured.
Yeah. And like Harsha has been talking about the pitches, and these are not going to be high scoring pitches. So you expect the games to be at 150, 170, as opposed to
Yeah,
the kinds we saw in IPL 2024.
yeah, absolutely. 150, 170 matches, you are going to see a lot of that, especially in New York, where the pitch is really, really, and it's not just a pitch, the outfield. The
Yeah.
outfields in India, we don't understand how beautiful the outfields in India. We don't totally appreciate it. You leave the
Hmm.
outfields out there, they're rocket outfields,
Hmm.
absolutely rocket outfields around the world. And I
Hmm.
think that's the one thing that you're not getting in the US. I mean, they're hitting the ball in the air and it's just going there and getting stuck in the mud. The
Hmm.
other
Hmm.
problem with that is when players run, their hammies get stretched because the ground is too
Yeah.
soft.
Hmm.
And you're whenever I'm looking at the field, I'm just looking at a player and saying, "Don't dive, please don't dive," because
Hmm.
this early you get injured. When they go to the West Indies, at least it doesn't matter how the pitch may be better or worse. I think the pitch will be better anyway, but the
Hmm.
outfield will definitely be better because they're used to playing cricket in that kind of ground. The soil is harder.
Hmm.
And so, otherwise, this is not a great place to play cricket right now.
Yeah.
The pitch.
So 150, 170, back to those kind of scores, because it was fun to watch IPL 2024, but at the same time, you
So
felt
much.
sometimes
You're
yeah.
right. See, you don't mind a good contest between bat and ball,
Hmm.
but the point is that this pitch, what you want is a consistent contest.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is that if the pitch is playing, if the pitch ball is turning or there's bounce on the pitch, and you get 150, 170, that's fine. If the pitch is two paced, that means one ball is coming, one ball is not coming, the
Hmm.
bounce is not, then the you don't want this game to become a game of lucky.
Hmm.
So I don't mind 150 to 170 games because skillful batters will find a way to play in these conditions. But I don't want a pitch to be such a situation which happened. If you see a couple of matches back, literally batsmen was swinging at it because they're saying that, look, I could get the next ball could just shoot under my bat. So I'm going
Hmm.
to just try and hit it whenever I can.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that's happening. So you don't want luck to play so much of a factor.
Hmm.
Given that this Indian team is structured to play well in the West Indies, and that's how Rohit has looked at it from the very start. That's why he's kept four spinners. Normally, you carry more fast bowlers. He's kept four spinners. He's really preparing for slow but normal pitches in the West Indies.
Fantastic, Joy. That was a superb discussion. Really enjoyed talking to you. Wishing you good luck for your career and hope to see you in Singapore. Hopefully, we'll do a big quiz here. And good luck to Team India for the World Cup.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I truly enjoyed speaking to Joy Bhattacharya on the host of topics. If you enjoyed the interview, press the like button, share it ahead, and definitely subscribe to Connected to India's YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.